Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! The first time, I was getting ready to go to Disney World. I just needed to buy a few things, mostly snacks for the flight down there, for the hotel room, and for walking around the parks. Well, at the time I was really into these Special K meal bars, so I grabbed a box for the trip and a few more boxes just to have around home. At the time I was wearing a black t-shirt with a wolf on it and a pair of white shorts, along with headphones listening to music. Nothing about me says employee of Mart of Wolves. As I'm leaving the aisle, this elderly woman gently taps my shoulder. At first, I thought it was my mom, so I took my headphones off and looked at her. "Oh, am I in your way?" she says. "No, I was just wondering if you knew where I could find the multivitamins. Probably in the pharmacy aisle. I'm not sure which area. You'd have to ask someone in that section of the store." "You don't work here?" "Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were restocking things." "You're fine. I've been coming here a lot and I just know the general area where to find things." We just wished each other a good day after that. The second time, birthday shopping. It was my birthday and I decided to spoil myself with some Halloween stuff. Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading cards, maybe some movies. Like before, I have an armful of my stuff because my mom and I like to part ways and meet up at the food aisles. This time I am wearing a Red Riding Hood Lolita style dress, minus a hooded cape, and headphones as well. Once again, nothing about this says employee. Like with story 1, I get a tap on my shoulder, turn to see a different elderly woman who was with her grandson. Hi. "Do you know where I can find some baby blanket yarn?" Somewhere in the craft aisles?" "I looked there and I couldn't see which yarn was the baby blanket yarn." "Okay, this is out of my wheelhouse. I don't know anything about yarn or how they stock them here." "You don't? But you're taking things to the back room, aren't you?" No, I'm not. I don't even work here. I'm actually just spoiling myself because, and after, I'm going to Poncho's and Lifty's for dinner." "Oh, I'm sorry, dear. Have a good birthday." And she went to find an employee in the craft aisle while I reunited with my mom. I don't know about you guys, but I just love these interactions. Then again, I live in an area where the populace is mostly elderly folks, so I have a lot of wholesome stories with them in general. This is kinda long, but I will try to keep it short. I'm a 17-year-old working at a Chick-fil-A, and the clothes we wear are a red shirt or polo and black pants. One day, I was on break, and since my girlfriend worked at a Wendy's in walking distance, I went there for lunch. Now Wendy's and Chick-fil-A have similar clothes, so it can cause a mistake of me looking like I work there, but when I turn around, you can clearly see my badge and a cow on my shirt. Let's start this off. I was there for lunch and to see my girlfriend when a Karen walks in. I can tell by her already complaining about the floor being wet. She goes to find a seat to sit her child down, and there are two poos. One waiting to be cleaned, and the other I'm still in waiting for my girlfriend to get on her break. The entitled kid whined, saying he wanted the comfy booth, but I was already there. So Karen came up to me and said, "Why are you sitting down? Shouldn't you be working?" I said, "I don't work here." Karen wasn't believing it, so she sat in my booth. I just get up being the man of the situation and avoiding getting in trouble. I get a text from my girl saying I'll be there in 3 more minutes. "Can you get us food?" And so I go up, and just as I'm about to order, Karen yells at me saying, "Oh, so you're still not working? There is a mess on a table over there. Go clean it up." Me saying in my head, "God help me with this one." I then tell her for the last time, "Lady, I do not work here." Very clearly, even the cashier backed me up. But Karen, being the basic Karen, started to scream at me saying, "Rude! Is this how you treat your customers?" I just turned around and tried to take my order when Karen went to booth number 1 and picked up all the trash and threw it at me. At this point, I am livid. The cashier was mad because she had to pick it up since the janitor was sick and my girl was in the back doing her job. And all I hear from her is, "Oh heck, that witch messed up." The manager was in a deep freezer outside at the time organizing it when the mess picked up. I yelled very loudly, but Karen ignored me and took her entitled kid to the bathroom to wash their hands. I tried to calm myself, then went to order when I then heard the squeaky bathroom door open, then close. In my mind I say, here comes round 2. I walk up to take my order and my girl is 1 minute away from her break. I have like 10 minutes left of mine. So while I am walking up to order, I am 2 steps away and then Karen comes up around the corner and cuts me off like Gordon Ramsay, cutting carrots so fast, and then starts laying into me about customers going first, and I say you're not my customer because, well, I don't work here. I take out my phone to record and this is when my girl comes out. She's about to come up as Karen snatches my phone and gives it to her entitled kid and says, "Do you want it? It's yours now." My girl sees it, then she starts screaming at her, and then Karen tries to slap my girlfriend. I see that and stop her, then she slaps me, then her, and I get in a fight. I pull her away and push her to the soda machine as the manager walks in. And well, she's actually my godmother. She lives across the street from me and my mom is at her house every single day. She knows I don't get mad easily, so when she sees this, she is stunned for a second. Karen calls the cops, then she comes up to slap me again. Mind you, my phone is still with the entitled kid and he is locking it out, and then as I stop Karen from slapping me, in the corner of my eye, I see my phone go flying and hit the table and my heart sank. My girl is trying to catch it, but she failed. I really gotta teach her how to catch, but it hits the ground and I was so mad at this point. I then picked up Karen, she weighs like 100 or 115 pounds, and I put her over my shoulder and she started kicking. I then picked her 6-year-old entitled kid up too and got them outside, dropped them and went back to pick up my phone. Karen is still mad, but I just got them out so the other customers don't get in this mess. Then the cops show up. One goes with my godmother / the manager to review the cameras. The second one goes to Karen's side, and the other takes my side. Karen was brought in to get her stuff, still whining at me and saying I'm going to jail, and the cop that took my godmother said I reviewed the cameras. And boy, did I feel good that second because I knew they saw what actually happened. Oh, she was whiter than this background. In the end, she was placed under arrest and charged with assault and for damaging my phone. It was done for. It wouldn't even turn on. And lastly, for disturbing the peace. I didn't get to have lunch with my girl, but I still got food delivered to Chick-fil-A by her. Truly, the sweetest. I was desperate to join a new job after my husband and I were both laid off last year. When I was offered the new role, I knew it would be a step down from what I was doing, but the manager and the team seemed great, and that part has not changed. However, since my manager Gary was so busy, he basically offloaded me to another manager, Jane. I was supposed to be the connection point between my team and Jane, but it quickly became Jane micromanaging me. She would ask me to work through lunch, move or cancel vacation days, call at 11 p.m. on weekends, and order me around on phone calls. She also made nasty comments about my weight and said I was big for my race. The list of personal slights so long that it filled 3 pages. I would talk back to her and she did not like that, and that provoked her even more. I only stayed because we needed to pay the bills. Finally, I had a mental breakdown on a Friday afternoon, after she yelled at me for something trivial about scheduling a meeting without including someone from her team who I didn't know about. I was dealing with a family tragedy and couldn't take it anymore. I told Gary about the situation with Jane and he was sympathetic and not at all surprised considering half her team quit. He immediately offered to move me to a different team under her. I was thrilled. Well, turns out going to the new team didn't help. Jane continued to order me around from afar. When I ignored her emails, she came to my desk one day and started loudly talking about how I am not qualified for this role. Gary overheard and finally told her off, but the verbal abuse did not stop. After 2 months there, I abruptly wrote my resignation letter and stapled the list of Jane's offensive comments, and I CC'd everyone. Gary offered a bunch of accommodations to try to keep me, but seeing how she was still provoking from afar, I said the only way for me to stay would be for her to go. And he did not have authority to let her go. Her manager was in a different country, and despite several HR complaints from at least 5 people, nothing was done. So I left loudly and without shame, telling everyone exactly why I was leaving. Times were very bad for 3 months. There were nights we would eat slices of bread just so we could pay the mortgage and emergency expenses from a health crisis and a funeral. Even after he found a job, we were still catching up on bills and still are. I spent months applying to 5 to 10 roles per day, sometimes over 20. Last month I saw a public memo about a big shot from a former company joining the company I just left. I used to work with this guy closely and texted him a congrats. Let me know if you know any insights on the new place. We had a quick call where I told him some ins and outs where I thought they could innovate. After this call, he asked me to join the team as his chief of staff, and I accepted. Imagine Jane's shock when we had our first all-hands call. All the VPs and above were asked to welcome the new Big Shot in a giant conference room. In Big Shot's speech, he praised over that I will be his chief of staff, along with a few key names. I now sat 2 levels above Jane, and apparently within the 3 months I was not there. I now sat 2 levels above Jane, and apparently within the 3 months I was not there, the other half of her team turned over. Every single person left. Gary was excited for me and said all nice things. However, Jane took the classless route and sent Big Shot an email about how I am an unqualified idiot that I used to work for her, how I tried to get her fired, and that she suspects I lied to get ahead. She didn't even try to be fake nice. Big Shot forwarded me her email and asked what this was about. I was so nervous and excited. Little did Jane know I was a director at Big Shot's competitor company and was already a level above her. So 2 levels isn't a big leap, and I worked with him for 5 years. I had an hour call with Big Shot and told him that she was bad for the company culture and was a nasty person in general. But the evidence he needed was Gary confirming that her whole team has turned over. My prior resignation letter, which was still sitting on my desktop when I logged in upon return, and a few other nasty emails she sent her recent staff, which they were happy to share with us. Big Shot fired Jane on Friday. My mother-in-law inherited approximately 50 acres of land seated by a beautiful, well-known lake. She recalls memories of camping, fishing, swimming, and having wonderful times with her now-deceased brother and family. When she and her brother had children, they continued this tradition and created memories that my husband, to this day, fondly remembers. Her land was located about 5 miles from the main highway, and you had to drive through another property owner's land to get to the land. They never had a problem going to and from her property when the previous owners owned the land. In 1995, a local family purchased the land that led into the family property. The current landowner, who will now be known as SOB, told my husband that they could no longer enter the mother-in-law's land. My husband basically begged the landowner for access to the family property. He even volunteered to pay a yearly fee to be able to drive through an easement to get there. But that jerk was adamant. No. My husband's family owns several ranches and have a cattle business on the side. The jerk owns the only feed store in our small town, so we had no other choice but to purchase all our feed from his store. My husband is a businessman and doesn't like to burn bridges. He is a non-confrontational and kind man, almost to a fault. Yes, we know that jerk had every right to deny access to my mother-in-law's land, but keep in mind that my husband's family is well respected and known in our town. In other words, it's not like we were going to go in there and steal his cattle or loot his property. Being a rancher, my husband is very careful about properly opening and closing gates, and that jerk knew this. Now even as I type this, I get emotional. My mother-in-law's brother passed away about 20 years ago. One of his final wishes was for his ashes to be spread on their land at some point in time. The land that brought so much joy and love into his/their hearts. His children lived out of state but contacted my mother-in-law to see if they could finally grant their father's dying wish. So again, my husband goes and basically begs that jerk to please allow this to happen. The jerk was very hesitant, told Happy that he needed a few days to think about it. Really? And finally he relented. We were ecstatic. The cousins flew in and prepared to go and spread their dad's ashes along with my mother-in-law and my husband. Out of respect, I didn't even go because, in my opinion, this was something so personal and meaningful, I wanted to give them their space. As my husband, his cousins, and mother-in-law drove up to the gate, the jerk was waiting to open it. Fair enough. As they drove 5 miles in, they were finally there. The land that they so loved and missed. Just as they were about to begin their somber and secret ritual of praying and spreading their loved one's ashes, they turned and saw the jerk not 20 yards away at the gate. Not even then could he give our family the dignity and respect that they so greatly deserved by giving them their privacy. Fast forward to present day, the land that surrounds the jerk land goes up for sale. My mother-in-law requested a surveyor to see exactly how the land was positioned. Almost like a puzzle, my mother-in-law, husband, and his siblings were able to find a way to see exactly how they could finally find access to their beloved property. However, she was going to have to pay big money to purchase the land that was adjacent to the jerk's land. She finally decided to buy the property, but finally, we can come and go as we please. What you all have been waiting for, the revenge. My mother-in-law also inherited other properties scattered throughout the county. My husband and I built our home on one of said properties. We have no access to a sewage system, so we had to get a septic tank. Then, all of a sudden, we see signs on our property that the commissioner's court was going to finally provide our area with a sewage system. The contractors presented their plan to install this system to the commissioner's court and a big company that is going to work on this huge project. The project was approved and was given the go-ahead. But here is the kicker. They were going to have to go through our property where my house sits to be able to run the lines to complete the sewage system. Everything was going to be affected if this went through. Our landing was going to be ruined. Jackhammering at 6 a.m. was sure to be in the foreseeable future. A fun summer for our 3 boys, swimming, barbecues, get-togethers was basically over for the summer. It was going to look like a junkyard for at least 9 to 12 months. Even though our home sits on this property, it's still under my mother-in-law's name. Being from a small town, Lord knows why they approved this project without her consent or signature. I guess these people thought, this is a small town where everyone knows everyone. We're sure we can do this, and she won't give us a hard time. Well, guess who the main contractor was? That's right, the jerk neighbor. When I found out, I called my mother-in-law and told her, I don't think I have to tell you where our revenge lies. My mother-in-law went to the commissioner's court and demanded to know why this project was approved without her consent. They couldn't come up with an even half-assed answer. As it turns out, they had to have an emergency meeting and the proposal was denied. They had to rearrange the logistics to be able to complete this job in any way they could, but it definitely wasn't going to take place anywhere near her or our property. From what we understand, the county and a big company was livid with this jerk for presenting this without her signature. I'm not even sure how in the world this was overlooked and approved without her consent. I'm sorry for our county, but it cost them thousands of dollars to reconfigure the mapping of the project, and they chose to go with another contractor. And the jerk was fired. Revenge completed. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.